Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. My name is Shoshana. I'm part of the product marketing team at Houzz. And I'm here today with Emilie, co-founder and CEO of Logistis, and Andy from Houzz also, who's an accounting integration expert at Houzz and certified QuickBooks advisor. So Andy's bringing 20 years of experience in finance and years of helping pros at Houzz and Ivy getting set up with QuickBooks and make sure everything works great for their accounting. And we're very excited to have with us today Emilie Sheaffer, co-founder and CEO of Logistis for Designers. Emilie, can you tell us a little bit about Logistis?
Yeah, definitely. Our big mission is we help interior designers build profitable design businesses. So our services include accounting and bookkeeping, sales tax filings, procurement services. We also have a team that helps with recruitment and hiring. And then probably the most important thing would be advisory, business coaching, and CFO services. So we have a wide range of services, and we really partner with our interior designers to help build a profitable business for them. Because if done correctly, interior design is a very profitable business model.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emilie. So we're very excited today to talk about what's the best way to get set up and share some great best practices for our interior designers with our experts. So I think the first, before even we go in, I'm going to just share a poll. So feel free to answer at any time. You'll also see on the side panel, you'll also see that you're able to ask questions. So we're going to answer questions throughout the presentation, but also at the end. So please don't hesitate to ask any question that comes to mind. So I would say that the first thing that we hear often designer asks is, what's Houzz Pro for? What's QuickBooks for? And Andy, maybe you can help us define things, please.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So essentially, as many of you may know, Houzz Pro is a full-fledged project management program geared towards the interior design industry. It is also an all-in-one package, includes design tools, as you well know, such as the selections tool, mood boards, 3D planners. It's basically your one-stop shop for all project-related procurement, invoicing, proposals, everything you need for your projects, your interior design projects. QuickBooks Online is a full-fledged accounting program. So while Houzz Pro is housing all of your project-related financial information, QuickBooks Online encompasses everything for your business, from payroll to your, meals and entertainment, overhead transactions. So having the two together, you balance your checkbook and reconcile your credit card in QuickBooks. So having the two integrating together gives you a full picture of your financial health for your company.
Amazing. Thank you, Andy. Emilie, what would you add to that?
Oh my gosh, that was so detailed. So basically from an accountant's perspective on why Houzz Pro integrated with QuickBooks is so important, you really have to think about how you're setting up your business structure as an interior design business. And, you might have a design team that's doing all your invoicing and all of your ordering from Houzz Pro, but then you really need to have separation and have a separate accounting or bookkeeping team that's checking all the items that are being posted in Houzz Pro on the financial side in QuickBooks. So there's a lot of benefits to using Houzz Pro. I love how Houzz Pro has set up their platform to align with industry best practices. It's so important as an interior design business to make sure that you're not eating through your cash on hand. So we can set up industry best practices within Houzz Pro to make sure that you're not paying your vendor liabilities before you collect from your client. Make sure that you're not fronting sales tax before your client pays an invoice. So there's certain things and certain restrictions and processes you can set up in Houzz Pro to make that really easy and error-proof on your team. So that's what I love about Houzz Pro. That's probably one of the biggest pluses. And then you can also set up, if you do your mapping correctly, in QuickBooks, you can set up certain permissions to triple check everything that's being posted in Houzz Pro, because everything you're posting in Houzz Pro will ultimately at one point sync to QuickBooks, and you should make sure your mappings. Yeah, that's another good point. It is a one-way sync. So everything must originate in Houzz Pro, and then it filters over into QuickBooks Online. The goal is that you really want to leverage both systems to your advantage. You want to make sure that the information in Houzz Pro matches QuickBooks. And so when you go to file like your sales tax liability, you can pull reports from both systems. And if they don't match, you know there's something wrong with how something was entered. So you can kind of do some back investigative work to make sure both systems match. And that's where you can really leverage both of the technologies to make sure that you're filing the right sales tax amount and that your financial records match in both systems.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're going to go now and discuss the best practices also that when you work with designers, this is also how you make sure that everything is well set up and what you recommend. We also got a question about setting up to address the difference between cash or accrual basis accounting. So maybe that's something we can answer as you're sharing the best practices.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. That comes up a lot when we talk about sales tax. Basically, these are we have basic industry best practices for whatever system you're using. This is just across the board for interior design. We want to be sending proposals for payment. The minute we get payment on a proposal, we turn it into an invoice. Once you have the paid invoice, then you create your purchase orders from the paid invoice and you order off of your purchase orders. That's across the board going to really limit your out-of-pocket liability to vendors or to front sales tax. So those are the two things you really have to be mindful of. There's a huge alignment between following industry best practices and being profitable. Over the years, we've worked with hundreds of interior designers, and I've yet to see a design firm be profitable that doesn't follow these steps. And you can really use Houzz Pro to keep you on track with those different steps. Should we talk about do you want to talk about cash and accrual first or sending proposals?
Yes, let's do that and then go in detail. We're going to detail everything.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so the big difference between cash and accrual, most of our clients file their sales tax on the accrual. So it's really important that you check with your state that you're filing in to see if you're required to file sales tax on the cash or the accrual. Most states require accrual, which will include open invoices. So if your state requires that you file sales tax on the accrual, it's even more important to be sending proposals for payment. Because if you're a monthly filer, like in Florida, and you have to file monthly sales tax, if you have a bunch of open invoices that you have yet to collect on, you're going to have to still owe that sales tax to your state. So it's really important in interior design to send proposals for payment and collect on the proposals. And then the minute you get payment on the proposal, turn it into an invoice. Then most designers, the majority of designers, unless you get into grossing in the millions, typically file their year-end IRS taxes on the cash. So the benefit of using Houzz Pro or QuickBooks Online is you can actually pull reports either or. So just make sure you know what you're filing your income taxes on and what you're filing your sales tax on. Cash will be reported when the money actually hits your account. Accrual will be based off of the invoice date. So it won't necessarily, like if you have an open paid invoice or open unpaid invoice, it will still show up on your financial records, even if it's not paid. So So that's
Right.
the simple short answer to that.
Exactly. And just to add in there that the reports, you when you go to your reports in Houzz Pro, you're going to see you can select cash or accrual, and depending on what you select, it's going to be the open invoices or depending your paid invoices, there will be everything is calculated automatically for you there. Maybe we can keep going on the detail and go even more deeper in the best practices right there. We also have questions. We're going to answer your amazing questions. Please ask them. We're going to keep answering. We have someone who asked about standard chart of accounts from Houzz Pro to QuickBooks. We're going to cover all of that. So we'll answer then. Please, Emilie.
Yeah. So unpaid proposals will not hit your financials, will not hit your sales tax liability. So that's why it's so important to send proposals for payment. And then again, depending on your sales tax filing requirements, this allows you to collect funds from your clients before paying sales tax. Again, we don't want to burn through your cash reserves, your cash on hand. So filing on an accrual will include open invoices. So if for some reason you are sending invoices for payment, or if you create in Houzz Pro, if you create a time billing invoice, there's only the option to create the invoice, not the proposal. So you might have some open invoices. So it's really important that part of your monthly accounting or bookkeeping processes is to look at an open invoice report and see if there's any open invoices that you might be fronting sales tax on. Your sales tax liability should be money in, money out. You don't ever want to report it on your P&L, your profit and loss statement, as income. It's just recorded on a liability account. It's money in, money paid right back to your state. That's really important to have your mapping set up correctly so that you don't want to spend that sales tax liability. You don't want to spend the sales tax you've collected on your invoices before you owe it to your state. So make sure you have separation and clarity on your reporting on what that amount is.
Amazing. Thank you. We have a question from Charlotte. How is this impacted by collecting large retainers upfront at the beginning of the project that you apply to proposal?
Yeah, definitely. And we talk a little bit, I think later on we talk more about retainers, but it's really important when setting up your mapping, talk to your CPA, find out if you file on the cash or on the accrual for your IRS year-end taxes. And the amazing thing about Houzz Pro, we absolutely love this feature. You can change the retainers to how they map to QuickBooks. So retainers can either show up, if you're filing on the accrual, we can keep it as a liability on your balance sheet. If you're filing on the cash, it needs to be reported in the year that you're collecting it. So it will map through as an unapplied income account. So it's really important before you set up your mapping, talk to your CPA, figure out if you're cash or accrual when it comes to your year-end taxes. And so your retainer feature, if you have I love Houzz Pro, they also have the option where you can request retainers so that those come through accurately on your financials in QuickBooks, depending on how your mapping is set up. Andy, do you have anything to add to that I might have missed?
Yeah, retainers, and also if you take payments on proposals, a lot of designers will take a payment on a proposal at the start of the project to cover furnishings, wallpaper, labor, things like that. So proposal payments and retainer payments, you have that option to differentiate between the mapping. And again, like Emilie was saying, like talk to your CPA, see how your annual business taxes will be filed to the IRS. And then you can determine from there, the proposal payments and retainer payments can either come over as unapplied income, which shows, again, like Emilie said, if you're filing cash basis, Or if you prefer, some accountants prefer that money not yet be counted as income. So it shows as like a customer deposit, a liability, until it's applied to an invoice. When it's applied to an invoice, it then becomes actual income, product or service income.
Yeah. And we're going to show some of it. We're going to go into a demo soon after. I know it's a lot of info for everyone. You can also be reassured, like as you're moving, for example, from IV to Houzz Pro, or as you're trying to get set up, we also offer support, right, with Andy, and we also have others in the team who can help you get set up and get everything, the mapping, everything correctly, so that it works the best way for you. Right, Andy?
Yes. The Houzz Pro, QuickBooks has their own support that is more feature support with QuickBooks Online software specific. Houzz Pro, we have our QuickBooks integration experts, myself and Suman. Some of you we've already spoken with or emailed with. So when you first connect Houzz Pro to QuickBooks Online, you do get 30 days from date of connection of complimentary support, meaning you can email with us, chat with us, book a call with us. That's great. We highly encourage anybody that works in Houzz Pro that deals with financial documents, invoices, proposals, payments, or anyone that works in QuickBooks. If you have a bookkeeper or an assistant that goes in and deals with your bank feed or enters information, matches, reconciles, have them on a call with you, the designer. So everybody that touches the financial side of your business is in the know of how the integration works. Beyond that 30 days, or if you've been connected to QuickBooks for a while, we do offer support at $49 a month. And again, that gives you the same access. And if there's any issues, bugs on our side, or an issue that stems from our side, we will always assist with that. So you don't need the support if it's an issue on our side. It's more user error, questions, training, guidance, things like that requires the support.
Thank you so much, Andy. That's amazing. Yeah, please feel free. We're here for you. And Emilie, please share more of those amazing best practices. Let's continue.
Yeah, let's go to purchase orders. So the next slide. Purchase orders. So there's a large assumption that purchase orders should only be created in Houzz Pro if you're sending it to your vendor. No, you want to create a purchase order for everything. So we sent our proposal for payment. Our client pays on the proposal. We turn that proposal into an invoice. We have our paid invoice. Now our sales tax is being reported on that paid invoice with the creation date of the invoice. Then we create our purchase orders directly from that invoice. So the purchase orders will match the cost that you have reported on your invoice. You want to order off of your purchase orders, and the purchase order should match exactly your vendor invoice. So as you're ordering off your purchase orders, you're going to record a payment depending on what sort of process you have with your bookkeeper, your in-house or outsourced bookkeeper. What we advise in our company is that you order off of the purchase order, you mark it as billed, and then it syncs to QuickBooks. And what your bookkeeper is doing is they're going through all your actuals through your bank feed in QuickBooks, and they're making sure that that purchase order matches exactly, the purchase order you have in Houzz Pro matches exactly to the actual through your bank feed in QuickBooks. If there is not a match, they should leave it as is, send you a report and say, maybe you say every 2 weeks or every month, they send you an UNCAT report and they tell you, hey, these are all the items that did not match to a purchase order. That's when you will have to go back, communicate with your vendors of, let's say, forehands, the original PO was $4,000, but it came through your bank feed as $6,000. There's obviously a $2,000 discrepancy. That's when you need to go back to forehands and say, hey, you originally quoted me $4,000. Why is it now $2,000 more? Oh, well, you tacked on another chair. Oops, I forgot to invoice for that. Now you'll go back, create, because we don't want to change that invoice because it's already synced over. We've already filed sales tax on it. So now you're going to create a new proposal, like a running reimbursable proposal with all the additional things that come up throughout the project. And once there's a balance on that proposal, a good enough balance, you can send it to your client for payment. It's really important that your purchase orders match your actuals. If they don't match, you're eating into your markup. You're eating into your profits. So I have a lot of designers that don't use purchase orders, or we have several designers, not a lot, several that don't use purchase orders, but they have a spreadsheet where they're tracking all this. My biggest advice is to have the software do the heavy lifting so that your team doesn't have to do all this manual recording of, does the purchase order match what I invoiced? If you're following best practices and you have a bookkeeper that can keep up with that on the QBO side and provide that level of detail, then you'll really be able to catch what you're ultimately purchasing out of pocket. You have to have some sort of system for that.
Amazing. I think that's, it's so helpful. We're getting a lot of questions, and don't worry, guys. We're going to answer. We're also going to follow up if we don't manage to answer everything. I think I'm just going back to this slide. You had mentioned, right, the minute you get payment on a proposal, you need to turn that proposal into an invoice. And then I know that you recommend issuing an invoice, right? That's how you work with your designers. Can you elaborate on that? And maybe, Andy, you also talk about how other designers proceed.
Yeah, thank you. I did kind of skip over that part. So once you get payment on your invoice, we recommend locking it as an accounting best practice. Once you lock it, you can't change it. It syncs over to QuickBooks. It's closed. I would highly recommend locking your invoices before you file sales tax. So you want to ensure that your design team is not changing invoices that you've already filed sales tax on. That's a common mistake, and it can turn into a sales tax nightmare. You really want to make sure that you're locking the invoice is what we recommend. Yeah, Andy, anything to add to that?
Yes, the biggest thing, I've said it for years, you don't want to alter an invoice that you've already paid sales tax on. It changes the already filed sales tax report. You want to make sure those records stay intact. Sales tax is very tricky and sticky, I'll say. So issuing it in Houzz Pro locks it for editing, ensures that no other changes can be made. The question I'm sure is coming up about, well, how do I handle changes or credits? Like Emilie was saying, if there's additions to the project, the extra chair that was ordered, you can always just create a one-off proposal and then invoice for any additions to the project. Extra shipping charges, you can have like a an incidentals type of invoice where you're just, we got tacked on another freight delivery fee, and invoice the client for that. Credits, you can also handle credits on other invoices, future invoices. If you're invoicing later phases of the project, you can always add in, if you're owing your client money, you can always add in a negative line item to offset the money owed to them, as long as you're not creating a negative balance on the invoice. But yes, definitely the biggest issue with editing previous invoices that, again, we don't recommend is the sales tax issue. And it does change your financials. That could affect year end. If you've already, we're now into the second quarter of the year, people are filing their tax for 2023. You don't want to make changes to previous months or years because it could change your financial reporting for your income tax as well.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
We also know that a lot of designers want to keep editing to add that shipping cost that they didn't know about at the beginning of the project. So here you get the industry best practices from our experts. But Houzz Pro is a software that's also flexible. So you have the option to to not issue, and it will still sync automatically to QuickBooks when it's sent and paid. And maybe Andy, we could start and do a quick demo to share with everyone how everything works and how the sync to QuickBooks works.
Sure.
Do you want to show us? Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, so I am in one of my projects, and what I'm first going to do is create a proposal. And I'm just going to make this easy and create a proposal from scratch. Now you'll see here the sync status indicator, not ready for sync. I don't have anything yet on this proposal, so I'm just going to add a lamp. And we'll say it's 500. And we've got our tax already set up, project and everything. Now, a newer feature we've introduced. So this is in draft mode. You can see right here, it indicates my proposal is in draft mode. It says not ready for sync. Actions that sync a proposal to QuickBooks are going to be your client approves it, you approve it on their behalf, it's sent or paid. We do now have a sync draft version button right here. So nothing else needs to happen. You can just sync that draft version. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and you can see sync in progress. And sync complete. If you see a red indicator that says failed to sync, it's very obvious. You can click on that and then click a link to take you to your integration dashboard in Houzz Pro, where it will indicate, oh, closed book setting is on, or customer deactivated in QuickBooks, whatever the issue was. This has successfully synced. I'm just going to go ahead and log let's log a deposit payment. So I'll do that. We're going to say it was credit card and done. And of course, you're plugging in all your pertinent information there. If you want to throw in a check number, if they paid by check. Now, sync in progress. So now that's updating. And what we'll do from here, let's go ahead. We'll log this other payment. We'll say check.
And if you can, industry best practice is to collect 100%. Is a nice practice to get into if you can.
Yes. Okay. Now we've got updates pending sync. So if you see that, the second payment that was recorded, or maybe there was a change, maybe you added an item, added shipping to this proposal, you would see the updates pending sync, and you can just click that and sync the most updated version of the document. This is complete though. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to, let's see, we're going to create an invoice from here. Sync complete. And you've got your payments, and it shows paid in full. From here, we can go ahead and create our proposal.
Purchase order, you mean?
Purchase order. We can go ahead and create our purchase order.
And this is also where you see the issue invoice button that we were talking about. So right there, and it's going to tell you when you press issue that it's going to be locked for editing. But from there also you can create the purchase order.
Yep, and we'll just say right there, create purchase order. And again, this shows not ready for sync. We could sync the draft version if we want. If you can approve this. You can also share it. If you email it to your vendor or copy link to share with your vendor, that will automatically sync it to QuickBooks. And let's see. There we go. Sync complete. So yeah, and as I was saying, if you do see any issues or any failed to sync notes, you could click the link or just go straight to your dashboard. You may also see something that indicates not ready for sync because of the date. This is typical if someone is just connected Houzz Pro and QuickBooks. Any documents prior to that connection do not sync unless you've updated your sync date, say back to January 1st. Then it includes all documents created after January 1st will push to QuickBooks.
Awesome. We got a few questions while you were doing this demo. Kate is asking if it's best practice to log and apply payment on a proposal. I thought you had to change to an invoice first. Emilie, do you want to answer that? What would you say?
I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. You can either create the invoice, log the payment, that needs to happen in the same day, or you can log the payment on the proposal and create the invoice. That action has to happen on the same day. So either way, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just nice to keep in mind that proposals are working documents. They don't hit your financials until they have a payment or they're moved into an invoice. And think of invoices as final documents. We're not making changes to invoices. That will alleviate a lot of issues with your sales tax. And that's just a good practice to keep among your whole team. Proposals, working documents, invoice, finalized. Don't make changes to invoices.
Amazing. Thank you. We also got a question about the syncing the proposal, send it to QuickBooks. Do you want to click that while still building out a proposal? Just to clarify again what Andy was saying, when you create a proposal, when it's approved or when it's paid, it's going to sync automatically, and you can always sync it manually with this with the button right there. You click the sync indicator, sync draft version, and it will go over. We also had a question about purchase order in Houzz only. Client never sees POs. No, don't worry. I just want to make sure. Don't worry. No, they never see it. We have a lot of more questions, but let's continue and cover because there's so much to cover. So we talked about purchase orders. Yep. Let's go back to sales tax, please, Emilie.
Yeah, so we talked about cash and accrual already, so I won't really touch upon that. But the big goal before you file your sales tax, make sure both systems match. Don't just pull a sales tax liability report from Houzz Pro. Don't just pull a sales tax liability report from QuickBooks and file based off of that number. You have to do a little bit more work. There's a misconception that, sales tax is so easy to file. I just pull one report, plug in the numbers. No, you guys are all in a more complicated industry that it does take a little bit more work on the back end. So I really recommend part of our process is we pull incoming transaction report from Houzz Pro, and then you want to compare it to a QBO invoice list. You want to make sure that your invoices in both systems for that filing period match. Then you also want to pull a sales tax liability report from both systems. If any of those reports don't match, make sure you investigate further. Have your bookkeeping team, your bookkeeper, if you're doing your own bookkeeping, triple check what's not syncing over. In Houzz Pro, did your team add an incorrect sales tax rate and then QuickBooks populated the correct rate from their system? So you might have a difference there. Did the wrong tax settings get added on a product? So there's so many. The benefit of using the integration, you can use both systems to cross-reference accuracy. You can also check any errors from your design team that they might have entered something incorrectly on the Houzz Pro side. So really leverage the two systems. Use both of the systems reporting to cross-reference for your sales tax. Number one, I would say, before you integrate both systems, make sure your mapping is set up correctly in Houzz Pro. Either have Andy's team help you. You can also hire a company like ours. We have, if you're not ready for monthly bookkeeping services or accounting services, we also have a mapping package where we will do it for you. I truly believe in setting up your financial statements to be easy to read. You want to be able to pull a P&L, profit and loss statement, at any moment in time to get the financial status of your business. We don't need 20 accounts. We don't need a million different income and cost accounts. Simplify it. Give yourself information that you need to measure the financial status of your business and know what your numbers are. Don't overcomplicate it. So what we've done is we've created income accounts that we believe are best for interior designers. This is also best for sales tax purposes. Our company files in over 40 states across the US. So we have kept that in mind for every state's separate filing. So you can see here, we have our income and cost accounts that we have our sales income, and then we have the cost account. So you can really dive in and not only see what your total income is to your cost of goods sold, but you can measure category by category. So you can really look in and say, okay, how much am I collecting in shipping? Okay, 24, and then it cost me 17. Okay, maybe I need to tweak how I'm charging shipping back to my client. So when I look at this company, their sales of income is 467, but it costs them 399. So immediately we would look at this company and say, your markup's not high enough. And so in looking at your numbers this way, you can really tweak to bring up your gross profit margin.
I was just going to say with the mapping, yes, the great thing about Houzz Pro is it allows you to break out your categories, your product categories, your service categories, and map those to specific accounts that you set up, like Emilie is showing, specific accounts that you set up in QuickBooks that gives you a much more detailed profit and loss statement. I believe we had a question of, is there like a standard chart of accounts that we recommend? We personally don't recommend, the integration experts at Houzz don't really recommend like, well, you should do this. You should map this out this way. It's really up to you and your business and what you want to be looking at. If you want to closely monitor furniture sales and furniture purchases, cost of goods sold, then by all means break that out. What I love about what Logistis has done is exactly what Emilie said. This works great for interior designers. So I do enjoy and like what they've done as far from a mapping standpoint.
Yeah, that's a good point. Houzz Pro, you can, even if you want to define your cost of goods sold further by category, you can do that. I love that there's that flexibility to really customize your mapping because there's different types of businesses want to look at different things. So you might be deciding if you want to build out a furniture line. Okay, let's see what our profit margins are on furniture. Is that a good long-term plan for our business? So there's different things you can look at.
Can you hear me now?
Yay, yes.
Yeah. Andy, could you maybe share the mapping? Maybe you could share your screen quickly to show everyone where they can find the mapping.
Yes, let me go do that. Okay. So I'm going to go from my projects over here to settings into QuickBooks under integrations. Mm-hmm. This will take me right to that dashboard I was talking about. I'll just quickly mention it, shows the sync status of all of your recent transactions, as well as the problem transactions right there. And we can look at that more later if needed. But over here, we've got our product mapping. So you can see I mapped out kitchen and bath. We've got our defaults here. So every product in Houzz Pro that is not set up with, tied to the kitchen and bath category just goes into one pool, Houzz Pro products and Houzz Pro purchases. This is income. This is cost of goods sold. I created kitchen and bath income. And I created kitchen and bath cost of goods sold in my QuickBooks, then came back here and mapped that category. So, every vanity sink that I have tied to the kitchen bath category flows separately into these accounts. Mm-hmm. Same thing with service. I broke out shipping. This is when you're adding shipping to a line item on a document. If you have a service set up as shipping, you would want to tie that to the shipping category. But this is when you're adding shipping to a line item on a invoice, proposal, or a purchase order. And then, of course, down here, you can, if I want to track subcontractor labor, I can do that. And then just look for my, maybe I set up a contractor labor income account over here in QuickBooks. I would then tie it to that income account and then cost of goods sold account.
Amazing. And maybe you can also show the settings at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you, Emilie was mentioning setting up as an applied payments or sale receipt, right? Emilie, this is where you would do it right there.
Yes. So we've got our sync date here. I connected on March 5th of this year. So all my documents prior to March 5th are not able to sync unless I change this, which I can just backdate this right here. You've got your payment mapping. So sales receipts, what we were talking about, again, this is retainer payments and payments on proposals. Currently, I have it set to sales receipts. So I would see a sales receipt in QuickBooks that is deposited into my checking account and is an increase to my Houzz Pro retainer deposit liability account. It's not yet counted as income. Once I move it to an invoice, apply retainer to invoice, or convert paid proposal to invoice, it then shows as income once that happens. You've got your transaction fee, income and expense. This is for client paid online processing fees if you take payments through Houzz.
Can I add one thing to that?
Mm-hmm.
What our designers love about Houzz Pro, you can pass off those fees to your client. You don't have to cover them, which is unbelievable. A lot of softwares do not do that.
Mm-hmm. We've got our bill pay accounts here. So this is who I pay my vendors from. So when I'm recording a check paid to a vendor on a purchase order in Houzz Pro, it's going to record a payment out of my checking account or out of my American Express or whichever credit card I use to pay my vendors. And then you've got your vendor tax mapping. This is something that I think is also great for states like where I'm at, California. If you track your vendor paid tax, if you happen to go into a retail store, buy something, pay tax, and then you mark it up and resell it to your client, you can actually record the tax on the purchase order and then track it separately. And when you file your sales tax, take a deduction for vendor paid tax on only marked up items. So this is a great way to separate that out in QuickBooks so you can easily run a report and calculate that information. You can also down here, this is just accounts payable, but down here, if you don't want purchase orders and bills and bill payments syncing over to QuickBooks, you can just turn that off right here and still, happily record your purchase order information, and it won't push to QuickBooks if you decide to turn that off.
Amazing. Thank you for going through that in detail. We had a question. If you change the mapping, will it update all the reports? When you change the mapping, it's updating everything in the future, right?
Yes. When you update your mapping, let's say I had the kitchen and bath category going to kitchen and bath income, and then I decide, you know what, I'm not really doing a lot of sales there, so I'm just going to lump it all in with my other product income. When you change that mapping, it does not historically update in QuickBooks. It would just be from that day going forward. Whenever you use a kitchen and bath item, then the next time I use it, it would just push that, say I sold it for $500 of vanity. It would then put it into just regular sales of product income.
Amazing. Thank you, Andy. And then we have more best practices. Emilie, do you want to go through this? We mentioned some of them.
Yeah, definitely. Let me pull this back up. Oops. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Let me pull that back up. Okay, there you guys are. Yeah, so best practices for setting up the integration. We talked about unapplied payments and sales receipts. We want to make sure Again, depending if you're filing cash or an accrual, retainers typically should be recorded in the year reported or offsetted to the balance sheet as a liability. So again, check with your CPA on if you're filing your year-end taxes on the cash or accrual. So these are a lot of things we've already talked about. We also have a PDF chart of accounts that we recommend for interior designers. Is that something we can share in the chat in case designers want to access our PDF? Okay. So if you need a little bit of guidance on how to set up your mapping, what accounts to add to Houzz Pro to sync to your chart of accounts, we do have a template that we recommend if you're doing your own setup that we're happy to share with you guys if you would like.
Okay, you should see it in the Q&A panel. Let me know if you don't see it. And we'll make sure also to follow up and share it. We're getting a lot of love from sharing this.
Oh, why do I keep doing that? Sorry.
No, I think it's our designers. Okay, amazing. Let's continue. Yeah, and we mentioned also the automatic sync triggers. Maybe we can cover this again quickly, and if you can do a recap of invoices.
Yeah. Did you want me to share screen?
No need, but I think I just wanted maybe just to reinforce Logistis recommendation, best practice, issue that invoice so it's synced to QuickBooks. And then, but also just remember when the invoice is paid or sent to a client, it's going to trigger the sync for you, and everything is going to just automatically carry over to QuickBooks. I see we only have a few minutes left. I know we said it would be 45 minutes. I want to answer some questions that came up. So let's go back. Maybe we can answer some questions. Again, we'll follow up with the recording, and we will make sure that we get back to all of you with answers.
Question, Shoshana. So I got a question. We have several credit cards and banking accounts. Is there a way to have the choice for multiple accounts? With Ivy, same with Houzz Pro. I'm just going to very quickly share my screen so I can show this to everyone, because I do get this question quite a bit. So yes, on that mapping screen you saw, I could map to one checking account and one credit card account for payments to vendors. Something you can do in both Ivy and in Houzz Pro. I'm going to come down here. Of course, I'm showing you from Houzz Pro, but Ivy is the same way when you go to record a payment. If you log payment, what you can do, we're going to mark this as billed. Again, Ivy has the same option. You can indicate create bill only. This is still going to record. Oops, I paid. Yes, I paid. Check. This is still going to record payment in Houzz Pro or in Ivy. In QuickBooks, you will have an open unpaid bill of $500. You can then match that to whichever credit card. So if it was the American Express you paid with today, you just match your bank feed charge to the open bill. So that is one process. The other option is to go in and just change the bill payment. If you sync the bill payment, just change it, edit it in QuickBooks, and change the payment account to the right credit card.
Which is what our team usually does. We prefer that method. Just make sure that you're capturing any bill payments that are not matching activity. So if there's a bunch of bill payments that don't match actuals when you go to do your monthly reconciliation, make sure you resolve those or move them to a holding account, like a suspense account, to resolve so that they're not overstating your cost of goods sold if you do it that way.
Amazing. Thank you. If you see any other questions, I mean, I see a bunch. I'm going to... we had questions about how do we handle products that we pay the sales tax on up front versus product where we are charging the sales tax. So maybe Emilie, you can talk about that, because we also in previous we also get questions about the sales tax on markup. Maybe you can address that, right?
Oh, the tax on markup. Yeah. Tax on markup, that's a feature that I wouldn't use. I know it's in Ivy, but in Houzz Pro, a lot of accountants, we gave our feedback that turn off that setting. If you have tax paid purchases, so if your vendor at the time of sale rejects your resale license and you have to pay sales tax, on the invoice, nothing changes. You still have to collect sales tax on the item. So the cost of the item plus markup. So your invoice should not have a markup setting. That setting didn't really change anything on the Ivy side. All it did was make the purchase order taxable. So you want to still charge your client the same on the invoice. Where you really want to record it is on the purchase order. Because when you go to file in the states that do allow that paid sales tax to vendor deduction, you need to know how much sales tax did I pay to the vendor at time of sale. I need that lump sum total. So when I go to file my sales tax, I can apply it as a deduction separately. So it needs to not be included on your total sales tax liability. It needs to be a deduction. Some states, every state's different. Some states will actually require you to mail in copies of your receipts and do like a handwritten form. My advice would be try to purchase from vendors that will take your resale license, because it ends up being a little bit more complicated on the back end. So if you can avoid it, it would be nice.
Amazing. Can you also talk a little bit about the refunding, crediting, that process? What's the recommendation?
Yeah, like Andy said earlier, if you have a refund, do not change the invoice, especially if you file monthly or quarterly sales tax. If we go back and we change an invoice to create a credit, you just lost that sales tax that you've already paid. So our best practice, and I believe Andy recommends this too, is to create a new proposal with a negative line item. Houzz Pro, you can now save a proposal with a negative line item, which I love. You can save it, but you can't, I don't think you can finalize it or close it until you have other items to offset that negative, which is an absolutely amazing feature, because you no longer have to keep, your own records of how many credits you have, but you can create a new proposal. You can do a negative line item of the sofa you're returning. Say you're selecting a different sofa. Then you add that sofa to the proposal as a positive. It's offsetting the negative. So it's subtracting out what you've already filed in sales tax. So now your client only owes the balance. If the new sofa is less than the one that you're refunding, you might have to charge some additional items so that there's a balance due, or it zeroes out on the proposal before you can move over or move on. Is that
amazing?
And yeah.
Yeah, that negative proposal, I believe, will not sync to QuickBooks. But again, the proposals are non-financial documents. So like Emilie's saying, it's a great way to track anything you owe them a credit for or a return for. And then in the event, and then of course, once you have other items to charge them for, you create a positive balance. Then there's no issue syncing it. They can pay the difference. If there's a refund situation, that typically ends up being something that we recommend handling in QuickBooks, so that you can record, a credit memo and then a refund if you're actually, writing them a check and owing them, $500 or whatever the case may be.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
We really appreciate having everyone, attending throughout the webinar, asking all these amazing questions. We will share the recording so that you can also share it with your teams. Thank you so much, Emilie. Thank you, Andy. Thank you for sharing your expert advice. And we'll get back to everyone with answers to your question. Thank you so much.